Hey good people, and welcome back to the channel. In a few moments, I'll be sharing my thoughts and feelings on episode 15 at Married at First Sight Nashville. First, let's address the elephant in the room. For the past few weeks, I've been posting 60-second reviews for Married at First Sight because the episodes were boring. But this review will be a full-length video, and I'll just share my thoughts on the couples and I'll give my rating for the episode. So without any further delay, let's jump right in. After the first 30 minutes of the episode, all the remaining couples meet up to talk about their experiences with one another. During the scene, I'll say that I didn't much care for Nicole assuming the role as a moderator and giving her advice to the other couples on what they needed to do to get their marriage working. Yeah, Nicole and Chris have a good thing going, but they're far from perfect, and Nicole is a bit touched. And she's been going into self-sabotage mode when it comes to her own marriage with Chris. But Nicole does what she usually does, and luckily Heiress and Jasmine took her advice with a grain of salt, but when she told Shaq how good of a woman Kirsten is, it triggered Shaq, and rightfully so. Prior to Nicole giving that advice, Shaq had shared a deep personal story with the group, and Kirsten didn't share any public support for him. Now, in fairness to Kirsten, she's never really shown herself to be a nurturing and caring wife to Shaq, and maybe it's just not in her to do so, at least not with Shaq. But when Shaq and Kirsten walk away from the group, they have a come to Jesus moment and they return. Upon return, Shaq confirms with the group that he and Kirsten consummated their marriage. And to that, I gotta say that I'm proud of Shaq for clapping them cheeks. Kirsten by far is the thickest lady that I've ever seen cast on the show, and by Shaq cracking her buns, it was equivalent to seeing Hank Aaron achieve the home run record. But later on, the group goes dancing, and during this time, Heiress dances with the dance instructor, which triggers Jasmine, and it causes her to leave the room. Heiress chases after Jasmine and gives some bogus story as to why he danced with the dance instructor instead of her. But it's painfully clear that Heiress wouldn't have played Jasmine like that if he was attracted to her. But since we're already on the topic of Jasmine and Heiress, I might as well begin my discussion of each couple, starting with Jasmine and Heiress. Pastor Franklin makes his long-awaited debut this season by talking to Jasmine and Heiress individually, and there were several gems that he dropped on both of them. With Jasmine, it was nice to see Pastor Franklin holding her accountable for how she has fallen short of giving her all to the process, while challenging Jasmine to tell Heiress what she needs from the marriage versus trying to figure out what he needs. I think the advice that Pastor Franklin gave to Jasmine will be more beneficial to her in her next relationship and not this one. Because let's face it, these two are going nowhere pretty quickly. But when Pastor Franklin spoke to Heiress, I like how he carefully cut through all the BS that Heiress attempted to shove his way. I like how Pastor Franklin compared Heiress' job to his marriage, and how Heiress would devote maximum effort to one and not the other. Unfortunately, I feel that Heiress has already made up his mind about being with Jasmine, but unfortunately he won't tell Jasmine to her face that he wants a divorce. Even towards the end of the episode, Dr. Pepper goes to visit them, and she gives Heiress an out, but Heiress doesn't take the bait. It still seems like he's worried about hurting Jasmine's feelings, but at this point I don't think Jasmine's feelings can be hurt anymore. Next, there's Kirsten and Shaq. The bulk of their storyline centers around Kirsten not giving Shaq the support that he wants and needs. As a viewing audience, we get waterboarded with this storyline to the point it becomes nauseating. We get it. Kirsten and Shaq have issues with communication, and yeah, Shaq gave Kirsten that good old pickle tickle, but he needs a lot more than thick thighs and warm love pudding to get his juices flowing. He needs the type of support that Kirsten takes time to give. And it's pretty clear that Shaq has one foot out of the marriage by now, and I don't blame him. Kirsten is beautiful, but I never saw them as a good match for one another. Next, there's Gina and Clint. I don't have much to say about this couple, but this is yet another episode where they're giving us zero romantic energy and 100% surface level stuff. It's silly to even think that these two will ever be in a place where they can desire each other in a sexual way. When Dr. Pepper goes to visit them, they all but hint that there's no chance of them staying married. I truly don't know why they're even sticking together in this marriage when holding hands is a struggle, unless it's because they don't want to get fined. And lastly, there's Nicole and Chris. I think by now, this couple is extremely predictable. If Nicole isn't giving the other cast members advice on how to have the perfect marriage like her, then she's sowing seeds of doubt in her own marriage by saying the craziest things. For example, in this episode, she tells Chris that if she ever tells him that she needs space, then he shouldn't give it to her. Now Chris had the same look of confusion that I had when hearing that foolishness, And even when Nicole told Pastor Cal about the foolishness, Pastor Cal had to cut her off, and he told her in the most polite way to shut the hell up. In so many words, of course. Normally I would tell somebody like Chris to get as far away from somebody like Nicole as possible, but let's face it, Nicole is the best thing that could ever happen to Chris, and I don't think Chris will ever meet another woman as patient with him as Nicole has been. Now, if I had to give this episode a rating, I would give it a C. I think the best scenes for the episode were all the scenes with Pastor Franklin in it, but outside of that, these scenes were more of the same. We have two couples that have no business being married, one couple that has no chance of staying together, and one couple that's only doing great because both of them went into the process with low expectations. When I say I'm ready for the season to be over, I truly mean it. But this marks the end of the review. If you have any questions or comments related to the review or the episode, feel free to leave them below in the comment section and I'll reply to everybody. Until next time, stay tuned and stay safe. Peace.